For one of our last panels of the 2017-18 season, we bring in Bob Stauffer, Jack Michaels from the Oilers Radio Network, and Chris Westcott for Oilers TV to talk about all things Oilers and Bob's birthday, of course. It's a very special panel. Happy birthday, Bob.
Thanks for that, Chris.
You seem so excited.
He's very jolly.
Once you get north of 40-something, it's not that.
You stop counting, you stop celebrating.
Speaking of that, Bob, in the 2010-11 season finale, who should have been whistled for a holding penalty behind the Colorado net?
You have to bring up Adam. What, really? Do you have to bring up Adam? I think they'll figure it out. He only. I mean, he got away with about 7 penalties against Timo Hardenkai. Did you remember that? They were not going to send him to the box in his last
overtime win for the Avalanche in the 11 season finale.
Well, let's talk about the current Oilers because a lot has happened in the last week, guys. Well, he is a current Oiler, but we'll talk about Connor McDavid and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins because they have been lights out together. It seems like they're creating chemistry. Is this a long-term solution for Edmonton?
Well, I think it's an option, and I think it's an option that the coaches always knew that they could fall back on. I know that a lot of fans maybe wanted to see it a little bit sooner. I think that Jack can speak to this as well. I mean, we all know, we've been around Ryan Nugent-Hopkins since day one in Edmonton, and the guy is the consummate professional. He is I would argue he might be the most selfless forward the team has. You never see him look sideways when he gets, played with a certain player. And he's the guy that's played the least until the last 3 weeks with Connor since Connor's been here. 12 points in the 10 games that he's played with Connor. He's plus 12 during that stretch. And Connor McDavid he's on an unbelievable hot streak right now. He's got 21 points in those 10 games with Nuge. So I'm personally glad. I think it also allows the Oilers to play Leon Draisaitl, have Leon carry and drive a second line, and that's going to push Leon. And some days I watch Leon and I think, I don't know if he knows how good he is. But in Nuge's case, I'm glad because to me, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is a made in Edmonton solution to maybe what some perceive to be a problem in terms of who's going to play the left side with Connor McDavid.
Well, and the other thing is in terms of flexibility, if it grows stale, and next year it undoubtedly will in stretches, you've got the option of putting Leon Draisaitl up on the right side and giving opponents a brand new look because you've got an equally, if not more skilled player now moving to the right side instead of the left side, which, gives teams another thing to think about. The other thing that I think is crucial and the Oilers have figured out is, in theory, having a 1-2-3 lineup of McDavid, Draisaitl, Nugent-Hopkins in the middle sounds fantastic. But they have discovered that those two players, Draisaitl and Nugent-Hopkins, are far too important to have to find minutes for them in a third-line role. You can't get Nugent-Hopkins enough minutes. Another guy, Bob talked about Leon Draisaitl in this way, Nugent-Hopkins, another guy who often doesn't know how good he is. And he is kind of a modern-day Roger Staubach. I agree with Bob Stauffer. Never rolls around on the ice looking for a penalty. A completely unselfish type of player. A guy who's not looking to chisel a second assist on plays where maybe he deserves one. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Leon Draisaitl, and Connor McDavid, that 3 in the top 6, gives Edmonton a ton of options. Now it's finding out which 3 complement those 3.
Okay, so guys, progress from Edmonton, but then real quick, just talk about the last 4 periods because they haven't been very good.
Well, they haven't been, but on the other hand, it's been 3.5 weeks of solid hockey. And, I think in the Anaheim game, there's two different reasons at play. At the Anaheim game, I think it was the second of a back-to-back. The Ducks made a significant push, and the Oilers didn't have enough in the tank to kind of withstand that push. And Anaheim kind of overwhelmed them in the third period of that particular game. I think it was different in Columbus. I think, and Bob talked about it during our radio broadcast, I think the 3-0 lead was a bit of a mirage in the sense that Edmonton got a few breaks early. Then when when Columbus got a few breaks to even the game, then the Blue Jackets kept coming and kind of pushed the Oilers out of the game and hemmed them in their own end. So I think moving forward over the last 5 games of the regular season, the focus for the Oilers will be the blue line on in because they've had major struggles exiting their own zone.
Yeah, second and third pairings right now are struggling off cycles and struggling to transition pucks. They got Vancouver and Calgary coming up. No excuse not to have intensity for those games. They got to build something for next year against those 2 teams.
All right, we'll see what Connor McDavid and company have in store for us on this 3-game road trip. Bob and Jack have the call on the Oilers Radio Network, and I've got you covered on EdmontonOilers.com and Oilers TV.